So Bill Burr just returned from Saudi Arabia and recounted his time there, and the guy has even less self-awareness than you could even imagine. In the same episode where he talks about how much the royals loved his show.
I don't know, I got out of there, I got off stage, everybody took pictures and all of that type of stuff, and the royals loved the show, everyone was happy, the people that were doing the festival were thrilled, and it was just this great positive thing.
He has the audacity to slam the British royal family for their stolen gold.
You ever watch when they show the crowd watching tennis and they're just going like, their heads are going side to side? Which is why if you go to Wimbledon, the royals, the box is on one end. Because when you live in a castle with a bunch of stolen gold, you don't want to be fucking, you have too much money to be whipping your head. The people on the side, that's the commoner seats.
And even still mentions the American CEOs who are depriving their employees of health care.
That there's a CEO, I forget what the analogy was, stealing money and writing himself a bonus and not giving somebody benefits, like the Starbucks people or whatever the fuck is going on over there.
All the while spending 10 minutes doing ad reads for corporations run by the very people he's been crusading against.
Visit simplysafe.com/Burr to claim 50% off a new system. That's simplysafe.com/Burr. There's no safe like Simply Safe. All right, last one, everybody. Fucking hang in there with me here. Cash App. Cash App does more than you think when it comes to having your back and making sure your money stays your money.
Simply Safe is owned by GTCR Investments, a private equity firm with 17 healthcare companies in their portfolio, and Cash App is owned by billionaire Twitter founder Jack Dorsey, along with BlackRock and the Vanguard Group. He's going on all these talk shows and ranting about healthcare CEOs and Luigi Mangione.
Free Luigi!
While literally taking money from the very people who own those businesses to promote their shitty products to his fans. Remember when he would do ad reads like the Sherry's Berries one, where he couldn't even hold back from shitting on the company halfway through because of how ridiculous the product was, leading to them dropping their sponsorship?
I'm sorry. What the fuck am I selling? Did I approve this? This is fucking ridiculous. Who the fuck is gonna buy this shit? This is the funniest shit I've ever seen in my fucking life.
Now he just does bland generic ad reads for even larger businesses owned by the people he pretends to hate in order to pay for his private helicopter fuel. He justifies his hypocrisy in performing in Saudi Arabia by going off on this pretentious rant about how the arts break down barriers, citing how the list of banned topics was originally so restrictive that no comedian would be able to perform. But eventually, they would negotiate the list down to where the only things off limits to mock were the royal family and religion.
This is what's amazing about the arts and stand-up comedy is comedians have always pushed like the boundaries, and this was like a classic case. Like, I guess this is tipping the cap to the people that set up the festival over there. When they first went to set it up over there, the rules on what they had about what you could say and what you couldn't say in Saudi Arabia, the people running the festivals will be like, all right, well, man, that's game, set, match. If this is like all you can talk about and you want some good comedians, like, this isn't going to work. And then to their credit, they said, all right, what do we got to do? And they just negotiated it all the way down to like, you can talk about anything, other than a couple things, which was basically, religion, don't make fun of the royals. And other than that, it was everything was like open.
In spite of this, Bill still wasn't exactly sure what he was and wasn't allowed to say.
And then in my head, I'm like, oh, well, I got this bit about going to my gym and there was a bunch of gay guys there. I don't know about this, right?
And was extremely nervous to perform, but still did it anyways for the money.
Probably because I was so fucking nervous about like, what is going to happen when I go out there and I do my shit? Everybody's like, no, just do your shit. Just don't talk about those two things. I'm like, I can talk about, yeah, it's going to be fine. I'm like, it's going to be fine, right? So I'm like, all right.
And he kept checking with the diplomats in the front rows to make sure that his routine wasn't too offensive.
And I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm checking out the diplomats as I'm doing this stuff, and they're all fucking laughing. All right, so I'm gonna push a little farther, and all of a sudden I start getting in the zone.
Even with his excess nerves, Bill ended up loving his time there. So much so, he went as far as saying that this trip was one of the top 3 experiences he's had in his entire life.
It was a mind-blowing experience. Definitely top 3 experiences I've ever had. And I don't know. I'm still trying to process it.
Another method he uses to justify his trip over there is saying that he's just a man of the people, and he did it for those who were just so desperate for the chance to see a live comedy show.
And I could just feel like these fucking people, the people, okay, they want a fucking show. You could feel it.
While admitting that the entirety of the first few rows were exclusively diplomats, and the balcony was filled with royals.
I go down to do the show, right? And they say, all right, the front 2 rows is going to be all diplomats in these padded seats. And then up top, the royals are going to be there.
All cosmopolitans who regularly travel to other countries and have easy access to stand-up shows whenever they want. He's blatantly ignoring that this festival is part of the Saudi Vision 2030 government initiative, whose explicit aim isn't to bring entertainment to their nation in order to enrich the daily lives of the average people there, but to transition their economy from one almost solely dependent upon oil to a prime global entertainment destination aimed at bringing in the top 1% who can actually afford consistent international travel, and also have them spend money on hotels and amenities while buying overpriced tickets to underwhelming boxing matches and golf events. He talks about how thoroughly he bought into the propaganda about these Middle Eastern nations and expected everyone to be walking around with machetes screaming death to America.
You know, I don't know what's going to happen here. And like my whole fucking idea of Saudi Arabia is what I've seen like on the news. I literally think I'm going to fucking land, you know, and everybody's going to be screaming death to America. And they're going to have like fucking machetes and want to like chop my head off, right? Because this is what I've been fed about that part of the world, right?
But was so excited to look around and see all of his favorite corporate chains from the US, which goes to show that these people are just like you and me.
And we're driving around, and then I'm just like going like, I thought this place was going to be like really tense. And I'm thinking like, is that a Starbucks? Next to a Pete's Coffee? Next to a Burger King? Next to a McDonald's? Next to a Pizza Hut? Next to a Dunkin' Donuts, next to a Krispy Kreme, next to a Cheesecake Factory, next to a KFC, next to a Chili's? They got a fucking Chili's over here? Then we go into the mall because I want to get my kids something. There was a Timberland store. I could have bought Timberlands like I was in Brooklyn, New York. And then there's advertisement for like boxing and fucking Formula One and MotoGP and golf and all of this stuff. And I was like, oh. And then it just struck me as funny. It's like, they're eating this shit too? They're going to have to get some bigger fucking clothes. They're going to end up looking like us.
Bill obviously has no problem with the ultra-wealthy in and of themselves. He only bashes the billionaire class in the West to try and LARP as a man of the people to whoever still consumes late-night television, and to curry favor with those inside of his elite LA circles. I know this term is overused and pretty corny at this point, but this is a definitional case of virtue signaling. Pretending to stand for something when it's easy and there are no repercussions, and then folding and dropping all of your convictions the moment they get in the way of something you actually care about, which ironically in this situation is more money in his pockets. If you look at his career arc, Bill went from making fun of gold-digging whores and doing bits about beating women to morally grandstanding about the select few thousand people in the entire nation with more money than him. Which would be fine if he had the backbone of someone like Shane Gillis, who turned down the offer because it went against his values, but he obviously loves money more than he hates people more wealthy than he is. If you enjoyed the video, please like, please subscribe, hit the bell. Thank you guys for watching. There's more content coming very soon.